Hello, you're watching World Talks on TVP World. My name is Sascha Fahrbach. Tuesday marks the second day of the EU-Armenia summit in Yerevan as Europe steps up its engagement in the South Caucasus amid a fragile post-conflict landscape. Now, Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan is hosting the President of the European Council, Antonio Costa, and President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, focusing on strengthening bilateral ties between Yerevan and Brussels. At the same time, Italy is advancing energy talks with Azerbaijan, pointing to a broader strategic shift across the continent. And joining us now is George Melashvili, President of the Europe-Georgia Institute, to discuss it further. Good to have you with us.
Good morning. Thank you for the invitation.
I want to begin and just kind of remind our viewers about the significance also of location and timing of this first EU-Armenia summit. Tell us about what kind of impact just having it there means and what can be expected from day two.
Well, the impact is absolutely tectonic. We have never seen so many European leaders in the South Caucasus all together. I think that anything that anywhere near resembles it is the COP in Azerbaijan or when European leaders came to Georgia during the invasion in 2008. So the magnitude is absolutely something new. It is entirely new dynamics for the region. And also the timing is also very, very carefully selected. The elections in Armenia are in June. And obviously it is a huge message that the entire European Union, and not only European Union, but the entire European political community is sending both to Yerevan and also to the entire region. We've seen the scale. It is absolutely huge, 48 heads of state. We've seen a partnership agreement that was signed between Armenia and the United Kingdom, the strategic partnership agreement. And also we've seen that there is absolutely hot topic of energy. I would even say that energy anxiety is something that deliberately goes through the entire summit so far.
Yeah, you touched on something critical there, energy. Now, that's going to be key. Now, Armenia itself, perhaps not the biggest energy provider, but key in terms of pipelines coming namely from Azerbaijan. So tell me a little bit more also, because I think it's interesting, Giorgia Meloni's Monday visit also to Baku, to Azerbaijan. How much does energy factor into all these meetings?
Well, we had 4 meetings in total. 2 of these meetings were connected to energy security. Before we go to Meloni, I would like to give you a brief overview of the security of the energy infrastructure in the Caucasus. We have the Baku-Tbilisi-Ceyhan pipeline, which is the main crude oil export route that goes from Azerbaijan and to Georgia and to Turkish Mediterranean coast. We also have the SCP or SCPX, South Caucasus pipeline, which is not oil but natural gas that goes from Baku to Tbilisi to Erzurum. It is the upstream feeder into the southern gas corridor. Then we have TANAP, Trans-Anatolian pipeline, the gas across Turkey from Georgian border to the Greek border. And then we have TAP, which is Trans-Adriatic pipeline, the final leg that goes from Greece to Albania and then to Italy to Puglia. So that's like the most important part here is the last one, the pipeline, the gas line that goes from Georgia, from Azerbaijan to Georgia and to Albania and to Puglia, because that's how Italy is also receiving significant parts of its energy from the Caucasus. It is approximately 17% of oil and approximately 16% of gas, respectively. Italy has significant connectivity to the Caucasus, and that's probably one of the explainers why Meloni decided to go to Baku directly from Yerevan the same evening after she had meetings in Italy, in Armenia, and now she is going to Azerbaijan to have meetings with Aliyev.
Mm-hmm. And all these things together, you mentioned, I think it's critical on that energy, you mentioned gas, all these different pipelines. I mean, this is going to matter for Europe in the not just the short term, but the long term. Also, in that fact, though, we have elections coming up in Armenia with the Prime Minister. If he potentially doesn't clinch a victory there, how much in danger do these new agreements become? How much of a problem would that be if he doesn't win those elections in June?
Well, first of all, we have the majority of this infrastructure going through Georgia yet, not through Armenia. Most of the pipelines, most of the gas lines, they were designed before there was a peace, not the agreement, but attempts to develop strong peace and the trip corridor in going through Armenia. So most of the infrastructure I was talking about, it goes through Georgia, and it is not directly connected to the elections in Armenia. However, elections in Armenia are absolutely crucial for the dynamics in the entire Caucasus region. Armenia right now is the most pro-Western country in the region, with Azerbaijan having its own sovereign foreign policy, with Georgia being somewhere in the middle right now. Armenia is the main foothold of the West in the entire South Caucasus region. And that's why keeping it is absolutely crucial, not only for Armenia. It is absolutely important that Pashinyan will be able to win the election, and thus Armenia will remain on the European course right now. But it is also important for the regional dynamics. It is also important for the long-lasting peace between Armenia and Azerbaijan, and also for normalization between Turkey and Armenia that will also eventually happen. Also, we have another energy project, which is one of the most important ones, and it is heavily backed by the European Union. It is the underwater sea cable that will connect the Caucasus to Romania and then Hungary and then European grid. And Italy also has a huge stake in that project, because most likely there are only two companies in the world that can build this underwater cable going all the way from the Georgian Black Sea coast to European Black Sea coast, going underwater. And this company is called Prysmian. It's based in Milano, and it is a $3.5 billion project. And Italy, of course, has a huge stake in this project as well, because they want Italian company to build it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think also, as you mentioned, they're really interesting on all the critical pipelines, all that energy flowing to the EU, but also to Italy, namely, as well. Struck also by what you said in terms of that Armenia is the most pro-Western out of that region. Not so long ago, some weeks back, I believe it was the Prime Minister of Armenia was in Moscow meeting Putin. I think Putin said something along the lines that he doesn't mind so much the alignment, or let's say the dialogue of Armenia with other partners like the EU, but it cannot have both, as in this integration with the EU and also with Russia's orbit. So at which point then does Russia step in? How can it step in? How vulnerable is Yerevan during these elections? Or what's Putin's play going to be in this?
Well, Russia has a very significant presence in Armenia. We have the Russian military base in Gyumri, which is very close to Yerevan, and it also possesses a security threat for Georgia as well, because the Georgian southern flank is also vulnerable to this military base in Gyumri. There are also Russian FSB forces on the border between Armenia and Turkey, and also there have been lots of attempts from Russian Federation to implement different FIMI activities in Armenia to influence the result of the election. So the Russians will be trying to do it very actively. The biggest vulnerability right now, I would say, is economic dependency. Armenia is heavily dependent on Russian market, and the Armenian economy is also pretty vulnerable to any economic shocks that can come from the Russian Federation. We've seen it multiple times. We've seen it in regard of Moldova. We've seen it in regard of Georgia. We've seen it in regard of even Belarus, for the love of God. So the Russians are actively trying to use their economic leverage on different countries. In Georgian case, it was banned on wine. In Moldovan case, it was banned on also agricultural products. In Armenian case, it might be something similar. Russians might all of a sudden figure out that some goods flowing from Armenia to Russia do not fit the standards, as they usually say, and they would try to ban entry of those goods into the Russian market, and that would be a huge blow to Armenia, of course. Also, there is a huge diaspora, Armenian diaspora in Russia, and there are also lots of Russian-linked Armenian businesses that will be trying to assist Russia's interference activities in Armenia during the election.
Mm-hmm. And all what you've just said as well, I mean, in terms of how the European Union, how Brussels, that kind of soft power, those investments that it wants to offer Armenia, will that be enough, let's say also of guarantees that Armenia can rely on? Will it be enough to step away from Russia, or will there always be a pull between the two?
Well, the European Union is actively trying to help Armenia. The fact that there is this gathering in Yerevan right now is a signal to the Armenian public and also to the broader world that Armenia is not alone, that the European Union and European countries are there, and also even Canada, which is not a European country, but it is very actively and closely working with European allies, is also assisting Yerevan on their European path. Also, there is EU-Armenia connectivity partnership that has been just announced, and also the EU-PM Armenia civilian mission that will explicitly deal with Russian attempts to interfere and influence elections in Armenia. So there is a lot happening right now. Our European Union is definitely scaling up its game. I would also say that TVP is also helping by the creation of the Armenia language division to fight propaganda and misinformation. And that's also absolutely crucial because that demonstrates that European Union is there, that European allies are here to help. And obviously, all of it is decreasing the threats that are coming from Russia and also contributing significantly to the common European architecture because South Caucasus, Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan are absolutely crucial to the energy security of the entire European continent. And as we see now in the case of the Strait of Hormuz, Europe absolutely needs to diversify its energy resources. And right now, South Caucasus, with its connection to Central Asia in the future, is also a very, very important part of the future of European energy security architecture.
Mm-hmm. And just really briefly, in terms of the public as well, we've seen that, from your home country of Georgia as well, how much the public supports that direction to Europe. Is it the same in Armenia? Just briefly.
Well, it depends. Right now, I think majority of the Armenian population will support European path for the country because obviously Russia did not fulfill its obligations as it's viewed in Armenia during the war with Azerbaijan. They did not protect the sovereign Armenian territory, so the Russians failed to protect Armenia. And right now, obviously, there is a huge dissatisfaction. I think it is very obvious for the Armenian public that Russia is trying to interfere in the elections, and obviously they don't like it. So eventually, I think we will see even more decrease of Russian influences in Armenia after the election.
All right, so giving us a really comprehensive overlook. Thank you so much. Much appreciated. That was our guest here, George Melashvili, president of the Europe Georgia Institute. Thank you. And thank you for watching. That concludes World Talks, but stay right here on TVP World for more. Goodbye.